So you guys are going to need to get 2 mics. Good morning, Gordon College. How y'all doing this morning? All right, let's wake up. Let's wake up. Come on, let's go. So I just want to say it's really been a pleasure serving as your student body president this year. I've enjoyed the responsibility wholeheartedly. We've gotten a lot done, I think. We're going to have a newsletter in about a week coming out to you all, letting you know what we've been up to this year, how much we've gotten done. But I'm most excited by all the people sitting behind me here and their plans for Gordon College. Let's give them a quick hand. So I don't know how many of you know why GCSA matters at this school, but the Student Association is your representative voice, the administration, the Board of Trustees, and all outside interests. And we also manage about $200,000 of your money, distributing it to all the clubs, councils, agencies, and publications. So these people will matter in terms of how you're represented and how your money is used at this college. So I would just urge you to take that into account as you consider who you'll vote for this morning. I'd like to open a word of prayer if you would all bow with me. Lord, in a world where the sphere of politics is one of the most frustrating and at times morally reprehensible, I pray that you would help Gordon College to be guided by Romans 12, as Chip Ingram exhorted us to be earlier this year, which says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercy of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Lord, I thank you for the candidates on the stage, but more importantly, the institution of Gordon College and its students whom we on GCSA seek to serve. I pray you would help us to do so wisely and for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. So I just want to give you one brief instruction. Please hold your applause until all the candidates are done giving their platforms, which is what we'll move into next. And then you can applaud once. I would encourage you to do that. And then after platforms, we're going to move into a period of Q&A, and I would encourage you to hold your applause until the end of that. We want to get you as much information as possible, so you're as informed as possible when you're making your vote, so that will help us to do that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Frank and Jabez Wen to introduce their platform.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Frank,
My name is Jabez Wen.
and we are running for president and vice president. It is our chief mission to fight for the concerns of every single student and cultivate a student government that is by students for students. We want to create a student government that strives to intentionally reach out to students all across campus and create more engagement with the student body. We commit to reaching out to you through holding office hours in accessible student spaces like Lane and Chester's, and that will allow us to hear from all student groups on campus.
We are dedicated to increasing the value of our education by enhancing the college rapport with the local community and greater Boston area. We want to achieve this goal through community service, invitation to campus events, collaboration with churches, and participation in town-run activities.
And we expect these actions to advance Gordon's reputation and build more stronger partnerships with the community. We believe this strategy will create more opportunities for students.
We also want to intentionally seek out every group on campus, establishing partnerships between not only students, but dining services, athletics, the chapel office, admissions, academic departments, and alumni, cultivating greater unity.
We are committed to enhancing the experience of every student at Gordon. In recent conversations with students, we've heard sentiments to and made our priority to partner with athletics to increase school spirit, improve dining services, hold more events on weekends, and increase student space by converting Gillies into a 24-hour student space. Evidently, we're running for the honor of holistically serving every student at Gordon. We promise to fight for your voice as we create a student government that is by students for students. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank Wen. If you guys could hold your applause till the end of platforms. Next, we have Erin Mckeon and Cam Grinnell.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin.
And I'm Cam.
And we're running for president and vice president. Throughout my time as vice president of finance, I've learned a lot about GCSA and student government, and Cam and I feel passionate about hearing our peers' ideas and concerns in order to create small, tangible changes while also keeping an eye on long-term growth. And so we would do this by implementing ideas like a coffee with the president, which is something I would do where I would sit in Chester's and I would want to hear you guys come to me with your ideas, concerns, utilizing a position like the director of student care on student government to create a spreadsheet of some sort where members of student government could sign up to go to all the different events that are happening on campus. And then Cam and I would also want to do a series of fireside chats, which would be in Chester's and just an informal conversational space for you all to share your concerns and ideas with us again. And we also just really want to emphasize follow-through in our student government, just really focusing on creating goals that would be specific, measurable, attainable, and that have a time frame so that when we step into the roles, we're ready to go and implement a lot of changes for our peers.
Yeah, Gordon has played a fundamental part of my past. I was baptized at Gull Pond. I used to have nightmares about Frost Basement. I mean, let's be honest, I still do. But I actually got to meet Chester the cat, the namesake of Chester's Place. It's a big cat. But Erin and I have made unity a primary focus of our campaign. We have different talents, backgrounds, and ideas. And that's critical in administration. But more importantly is this at a school-wide level. All of us have different talents, backgrounds, and ideas. And Erin and I are committed to bringing us together to make Gordon a better place to live, grow, and study. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, McKeon Grinnell. Next, we have Struthers Nusser.
Hello, I'm Arwen Struthers.
And I'm Kaylin Nusser.
And we are running for president and vice president. And we are dedicated to transparent service, active engagement, and consistent communication.
And while those are a lot of abstract words, we have concrete ideas so that we can serve the student body well. And not only that, but we want to give you concrete things so that you can hold us accountable if we are elected.
So first, transparent service. The student government's primary role is to serve the student body, and we want to do so transparently so that you know everything that's going on in student government and that you feel you can approach us with any needs that you have. And we can do this by taking the first 5 to 10 minutes of every forum and creating that as an open space for students to come and voice concerns. We'll also be actively using the feedback@gordon.edu email. We also want to actively engage all of the student body. There are so many different groups here on campus, and we believe that we can reach out to different groups like Res Life, athletics, and different academic departments in order to really serve those individual communities and their needs. And finally, consistent communication. We believe that consistently communicating what the student government is doing is extremely important. And so we want to have a column in every edition of the Tartan telling you what we're doing, and we want to actively be sending out different kind of newsletters throughout the year so that you are updated on what student government is doing for you.
We understand that Gordon College is not a perfect college, but it is our college, and we would love the opportunity to serve you guys well.
Given my experience as both a representative and a vice president, and Kaylin's experience as a director of an executive council, we believe that we have the skills to serve you as we move forward.
Thank you.
Let's thank all the candidates for giving their platforms. So we're now going to transition into a period of Q&A with myself. Each of the candidates' tickets, each ticket will have about 30 to 60 seconds to answer each of the questions. And then after that period, we'll move into a period of audience questions where you'll be able to email your questions to feedback@gordon.edu. So we'll have a slide about that later. But for now, my first question for all of you is, what do you see as the most important responsibility of the student body president? Take them in whatever order.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think that the most important responsibility of the student body president is representing the voice of students to the administration. The student body president is there to hear student concerns, to understand how Gordon College is operating, especially on the student level, and really understand student sentiment all across the board, and be able to accurately and consistently convey that to the administration, showing where there is need and showing what students are doing in order to serve Gordon College.
Yeah, I think the student body president is the chief voice of students, and by being an effective student body, I think you have to be present for students, and I think you have to be accessible in Lane and Chester's and just be available to give feedback, to hear from students, to listen to them, and I really think you need to do a good job of intentionally reaching out to kind of every student group on campus.
Yeah, for me, I think the most important role of the president is to really utilize the resources that GCSA has and the people that GCSA also has and manage them well in order to effectively use the position. And I think it's definitely a representative role, but I also think it's important to remember that it is a managerial role in the same sense. And I recognize that there is a certain degree of influence that comes with the title of president, but if I were to win, I would really want to focus on earning that influence and respect rather than just assuming it because I do have a title. So,
Thank you. Why did you pick your vice president, and then why did they agree to run with you?
Yeah, I picked Jabez. Jabez grew up in China, and I really wanted a person from a different that has a different perspective than me, so can challenge me on my own beliefs, that sees the world completely different than I do. And Jabez is very smart and can really challenge me in my decisions. And as kind of the primary counsel to the president, I believe she will both challenge me in like how I make decisions and also just represents a different group on campus and can really represent international students and multicultural groups effectively. So,
Hold your applause, please. Thank you. Yep, continue.
I picked Cam because first I really wanted somebody who hadn't been a part of student government since I have served on student government. I think that allows for a fresh and a new perspective, which I definitely think Cam brings to the table. And I also thought it was important to pick an underclassman because as Gordon moves into changes the next few years, Cam's class and my class, I'm a sophomore, will be arguably the most affected by those changes. So I think it's really important to have a strong voice in those matters.
So I chose Kaylin as my vice president because I knew that it needed to be someone who I could trust. The role of the vice president is to serve as the primary counsel to the president, and so I needed to have someone who I knew would push back against my ideas and really force me to think critically about how I'm serving the student body. And I also know that Kaylin is the director of the Common Exchange, which is an executive council, and the executive council is sort of overseen by the vice president, and so I knew it would be a natural transition for her, knowing how the executive council operates, and so I knew that I could trust her and that she knows what the role entails.
Thank you. So third, the GCSA, as I said before, controls about $200,000 of student funds. On what principles do you think that those funds should be distributed to the clubs, councils, agencies, and publications?
So serving as the Vice President of Finance this year, this is something that I've thought a lot about. And I do think that the funds that we have are large, and I think we really need to put an emphasis on investing in clubs and agencies and councils, whatnot, that are doing really important work and that are serving a really large portion of campus. And I think that investing in those areas will really allow for GCSA to grow.
I believe in investing in successful clubs. So just from a business perspective, if the club is drawing a lot of people on campus, I believe that, yeah, we should kind of allocate that money towards them. But then kind of my second point is I really want to see, I think, clubs play an integral role in strengthening community on campus. So I think like different clubs like the Economic and Business Club, Afro Hamwe, just play kind of different roles, and I think like we need to support kind of see them both as equals and kind of both allocate money to successful clubs and also that support the mission of the college too.
Yeah, so as the Vice President of Club Development, I've been working a lot with different clubs throughout this semester, and I think that both of these other presidential tickets have said it really well, in that rewarding tickets or rewarding clubs on campus that are really serving as much of the student body as possible and are really actively engaging those students, but also being able to see leadership in those clubs and how those leaders are stewarding funds and how they're using funds in order to serve both the members of their clubs but also for larger events where students are putting those funds is going to be extremely important.
Thank you. So as a ticket together, what do you see as your greatest strength and your greatest weakness? And I'd prefer if those weaknesses were not resume weaknesses like, oh, I work too hard, but something more like an actual weakness that you think might inhibit your ability to do the job well.
Yeah, so I think kind of connecting to the last question, one of our strengths is, and I respect Erin in kind of the choice she made was because I'm not one of, Erin's, like in Erin's sphere of influence. She chose me. We think differently. Erin is much more detail-oriented. She thrives on specific ideas and attainable ideas, and I kind of have more of a talent of thinking on big picture things. So I think one of our strengths is the balance that we would bring to the table, and also we come from different backgrounds. Erin is very good at managing people, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to see next year.
Yeah, and in terms of a weakness, I think Cam and I are definitely more on the less willing to confront people. So I think we would definitely need to work on that, because that does come up inevitably in a student government. And so I think together we could really challenge each other in that way to be able to step forward and to get things done that need to happen.
One of the things that I think Arwen and I bring to the table is how understanding how to serve the students well through student government already. We both have had experience with the student government, and I think that it speaks volumes in terms of being able to just start right off the ground next year, and I think that that's very important instead of a learning curve. I think that just being able to represent you well through that, and having already experienced that, I think bringing that into next year, that's something that I see as a strong point for us.
And then a weakness, I know for me, I tend to sort of take on and bottle up responsibilities, and I really struggle to trust people with delegation and all of those things. So I believe that in selecting Kaylin as my vice president, she's really going to help me balance out those responsibilities.
So I think the strength for our team will be diversity. So we grew up in different countries and grew up in different culture, and we present different groups on campus. So I think that's one of our strengths. And also, Jonathan can give big picture, and I am a very detail-oriented person. So I think that's our strength.
And I think our weakness is we both have a huge heart for people and really want to see people thrive, but also when you're kind of managing funds for clubs and meeting with a lot of different groups, you have to get used, there are times where you have to say no. So I think just saying no, having those tough conversations is something that we really want to see everyone on this campus succeed, but at the same time, just coming with the role, you do have to say no sometimes,
So the position of student body president is often very demanding. It requires 30 to 40-hour work weeks at times. You're often answering emails really frequently. You have to manage a team of about 23 students really well. How do you feel prepared as a ticket to manage that responsibility?
So I believe that Kaylin and I are very prepared to manage that responsibility. One thing that I have really committed to is if we are elected, I will be giving up all of my other commitments, because I am involved on campus in a lot of ways, but I believe that in order to serve the students well and in order to really be able to manage the student government properly, that needs to be your sole task. And I believe that Kaylin and I will work really well together, because Kaylin has a lot of really great interpersonal skills in dealing with GCSA drama, because every organization is going to have drama and tension, and there are always going to be issues. But Kaylin has really great interpersonal conflict skills that will be able to help us through all of that. And I believe that if we put together a plan, especially at the beginning of the year, outlining everything we want to do and how we can really actively use our time in office well, we'll be able to really manage all 23 members well.
Yeah, for me, I keep bringing it back to my role as Vice President of Finance, but I do think that role has afforded me an opportunity to really learn my interpersonal skills, because as I have that position, I have to meet with clubs and club leaders and have to have difficult conversations, and so that I think has prepared me well for difficult conversations that I might have to have moving forward. And I think in terms of Cam and I managing the organization together, Cam's definitely on the friendlier side, maybe more so than I am, and so I think he's definitely a really approachable guy that you can come to easily.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think Erin is very committed to the role, based off of her previous role, and knows kind of what it requires. I think for me, part of the reason, Josh, some of the things that Erin and I are trying to break down and change about GCSA is this idea that it's this like separate group of people that all they do is GCSA. They've taken themselves and removed themselves from the community in order to focus on that. I think, I will still continue to be a part of gospel choir. I'll still continue to be, doing Rec M events because I think it's important to be invested in the community. We're not separate. We're peers, and I think that continuing to participate in that while also having a focus and bringing what you learn to the table there is also a very important skill to have.
Yeah, I believe other than athletics, my primary commitment will be to GCSA, and I believe that me and Jabez kind of bring two different skill sets to the table. Like Jabez shared earlier, she's very detail-oriented. I'm more of a big picture guy, and I think I have kind of interpersonal skills, and Jabez kind of skill set is more in the financial side. And I think kind of utilizing that vice president well and utilizing your people well. I think it's about delegation too. When you're running an organization, I think it's important to know that like as the head, you can't do every single thing. And I think using your people very well and using your reps, using your VPs to kind of delegate. And as the president, you're kind of setting the vision for the college, for GCSA and what you want to do. So,
thank you all. So I have one final question for you all, but before that, I just wanted to encourage you to email feedback@gordon.edu. I've got the account up in front of me, and I'll be reading through your questions and trying to ask them after this final question. So I'd encourage you to send those in now if you have them. So my final question for you all is that in light of the college's current budget planning process, how do you plan to lead the college well through a year of transition?
So like I said earlier, I'm a sophomore, Cam's a freshman, and so I think keeping in mind that our classes will be arguably the most affected by these budget cuts is important, and so having that representative voice in that is a strength of ours, but also I think through the initiatives that we want to pursue as president and vice president, really just wanting to create relationships with our peers, and so if they're struggling with it or have questions, just making ourselves as available as we can be to talk through it with them.
Yeah, I think that in the wake of budget cuts, being there to listen to people is going to be extremely important. Being able to listen in the midst of hurting, depending on what is cut, is extremely important. And I think that we want to make the student government as available to the students as possible, and we believe that we can voice those concerns to the administration, showing where we see the hurt that budget cuts has caused, but then also working with different reps on rep initiatives in order to push forward new changes, in order to bring things back or to try new things, and we believe that we can really hear your voice throughout this process.
I think two things that I think as president, your job is the chief voice of the students. So when you're going to the administration and you're really the representative to them, and because of your role, kind of you're seeing a lot more behind the scenes of what is happening with the budget cuts. So I think first and foremost, like I want to fight for your voice, your concerns. Like that will be my job. But secondly, I think it's building relationships with the administration and kind of building relationships and trust with them to really allow for just greater initiative on campus. I think all of what we want to do, we really want to partner with the administration to do it. I think that is how change happens on campus. If we kind of come together unified between different departments and different student groups on campus, and I think that will be the most effective strategy.
Thank you all. So there will also be some ticket-specific questions. I'll do my best to distribute them to you all. So this first one is for Frank Wen, and a few students asked it, so I'll summarize briefly. But Jonathan, as a candidate who has not served on GCSA before, how will you overcome the steep learning curve involved with the position?
Yeah, I have, so as a political science major, I have kind of political science work in my courses, but I also have policy experience in the real world. I interned for a state senator in California and assisted the legislative staff in conducting research in multiple policy areas and also addressing the needs of constituents. So although I haven't been involved in GCSA, I do have policy experience outside of GCSA and understand how GCSA as an institution works, and right after I get elected, Jabez and I both want to kind of start on the ground that day after, building relationships on campus and kind of laying out our goals, and we commit to working hard and believe that we can overcome the steep learning curve.
Thank you. So this next one is for Struthers Nusser. One of the students asked, what do you plan to do to connect with those who are not involved in residence life or athletics, which are arguably already the most represented groups on campus or in GCSA?
Yeah, so we believe that there are a variety of ways that we can really interact with students. And one main things that we really want to do is making Forum an open space, but we do realize that not all students can come to Forum in order to voice concerns that they may have. And so we would love to partner with different leaders on campus, especially with different club leaders who I've been working with all year, to see where there are different groups on campus, because, poetry club is not a club that's, directly connected to res life or athletics or another really big group on campus, but that is a specific group of students who has needs and who wants to engage. And so we believe that by really reaching out to as much of the student body as possible, we can engage those students, and especially at the beginning of the year, really pushing for student government to be involved in the lives of students is going to be something super important that we do.
Also, I just think that being able to be approachable is really important, I think, to us. And I think that while we were campaigning, it was really wonderful to sit down with some of the students who had felt like they were a bit shorted, I think, in some ways. And to be able to sit down and really hear their concerns and say, like, I know how to connect you. I know the people to connect you to in order to fix these problems was just something that I think we have a heart for, and I think really want to, with all of the clubs and different activities on campus. I think that just like really being able to get things going quickly is important, and knowing the channels to send them.
Thank you. So this question is for McKeon Grinnell. As freshman and sophomore respectively, how do you plan to represent the upperclassmen who will still be on campus in the next year?
So I think that through the members of GCSA who are juniors and sophomores, like the junior class representative or the senior class representative, working with them who definitely have more of a pulse on their respective classes is important, and just hearing from them. And then also, just as I've mentioned before, just the ways that we want to talk to all students, and just really reaching out to everyone, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior included.
Thank you. So this next question has to do with the spiritual health of campus. One student asked, how is Gordon doing spiritually in your perspective? And how would you lead this campus towards a greater reflection of God's kingdom?
Yeah, I think one of the things coming in this year that I was really proud of is all the student-led spiritual things that are going on campus. And I think that next year, Erin and I are committed in the budget crisis to, not budget crisis, but the budget situation that's going on, to deal with, or to prioritize these clubs, because it really is an important part. And when you look at the student selection process about which college prospective students are going to come to, a big part of the reason that a lot of us chose Gordon was because of the vibrant spiritual life here. So we're committed to fostering the growth of those programs and those initiatives as they continue.
I think it would be amiss to say that our spiritual health as a campus is amazing. And I don't think that's what Kim was saying at all, but I think that, there is, if we're going to be honest, there's a lot of apathy, and there's a lot of, students that, feel like they're not being spiritually fed. And I think that it's really important that we understand how we can help them. And I think that how we can, help them balance their lives better so that part of their life doesn't slip as much. I think that there are people who really love their faith and very much are involved and crave that, and I think that giving them a support too to bounce off of is also very important. So I think understanding that everyone is an individual and understanding where they're coming from, and everyone comes from so many different backgrounds and so many different denominations and so many different religions, even here at Gordon, I think that it's really important to understand that there is so much variability, and understanding just how we can best serve you within that.
Honestly, I think one of Gordon's greatest needs is, I think, for more unity. I think as believers, I just see on this camp, there's a lot of kind of division, I think, and first and foremost, like, I admit that as a government organization, like we can do our best to promote unity, but like first and foremost, I believe in the power of prayer. That like I can't change people's hearts, but God can. And I think first and foremost, we want to just be prayer for leaders next year, and believe in the power that by praying for God's church, and I think we are the body of Christ together, that will kind of break down walls that humans can't. So, yeah.
Thank you all for those responses. So a lot of questions have come in about the diversity of campus and how you as a ticket will interact with it. I think this question summarizes it pretty well. Please share your intentions for the current initiatives and ad hoc committees that GCSA oversees to advance the welfare of minority groups on campus or underrepresented groups more broadly.
So serving as Vice President of Finance this year, we're going through the budgeting process for the following student government, and I think looking across all clubs, obviously they're all doing great work, but I think clubs like Afro Homely and clubs like La Raza that have just been chartered this year are doing such a great job, and I think we really want to focus on investing in them and really working with them so that they can provide as many events and opportunities that will really reach across the entire campus, because obviously they're doing such a great job, and we really just want to support them and promote them as much as we can.
Yeah, I would agree with Erin that I think that we have seen some incredible work from these clubs this whole year. And so looking to the future, being able to partner with Afro Hamwe and La Raza, and then working with MIO and ISO to really build these connections and build a relationship between student government and ISO and MIO is going to be super important looking forward as we partner for different events and as we support them. And one thing that I think we believe is super important is making sure that members of student government are actively attending different events like Dear Neighbor, which was a huge success this past week. So making sure that these clubs know that they are supported by student government and feel that they can approach us with any issues that they might have or any concerns that they might have so that we can truly serve them well.
I think we want to kind of continue what I think GCSA right now is doing really good job of, especially Dear Neighbor. I think that's been a huge success on campus, and really breaking down walls and creating points of connection and trust among students. And I really believe that like these movements happen through kind of like campus unity and both promoting multicultural groups, but also like not leaving out international students and movements like that. I think when we start to see like the body of Christ, it's not just, it is everyone, every race, every culture, every tongue, every tribe. So like Jabez being an international student, like she has that perspective and kind of that touch point on campus, and kind of like clubs like Afro Hamwe, La Raza, MIO, ISO, we want to kind of promote unity among them and also like see the value in them and kind of continue what GCSA is doing now.
Thank you all. I'll give each ticket 5 seconds to answer this question. Will you advocate for the return of strawberry dippers? One student wants to know.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Let's give a round of applause for that. That's good. So we have another harder hitting question here. How would you deal with having to make some of the toughest decisions that come, such as dealing with an unhappy student body, an unengaged student body perhaps that isn't willing to participate in your initiatives, dealing with allocating budget cuts or pushback from the administration?
I think just being present for students. I think being available, being present in lane, being intentional and kind of going outside of the office and building those relationships, and being intentional in the leaders that you do meet on campus. And I think like through relationship you earn trust with someone, and I believe that although at times in relationships aren't always perfect, there's ups and downs to it, but I believe that if that relationship is strong, then I think saying no to like we can't fund this club, I think like that relationship is more important than kind of that decision, if that relationship is strong and just met with intentionality.
Yeah, as Erin touched on earlier, I think she brings great managerial skills to GCSA. And so I think starting within the relationships that are happening within the student association and using that as a launch point to the student body is very important. And so I think that's something that we would bring to the table. Also, very practical things, like Erin mentioned earlier, coffee with the president in Chester's, and focusing on broadening those initiatives that would unify GCSA and the student body would be the most important part of creating a better place for Gordon to grow.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is going to be listening, being willing to listen, being willing to sit down with students who have concerns, but then also being willing to actively seek out students when there is apathy, because a lot of times students don't want to engage with student government. And so be willing to go the extra mile and say, hey, like, I know that you're this club leader. I want to know what you and your club members think of what's going on campus. Really going that extra mile, and especially dealing with difficulties with the administration, being willing to assertively voice student concern and opinion, but then also actively seeking that out and consistently going back to the students and asking, what do you think about this, is going to be super important.
Thank you all. So one student's having a bit of trouble differentiating between candidates. What do you think is the one thing that makes your ticket the most distinctive in this race?
Okay, I think I definitely recognize that we all have pretty similar platforms that we're coming with in terms of really wanting to seek out student opinions and student voices, which I think is really great, because I think that's the primary focus of student government, and that's what we all should be aiming for. But in terms of what Cam and I bring to the table and why we would be distinct and separate from the other three, I think is just the experience that I have as a member of student government, and then the experience that Cam has in the groups that he's a part of on campus. I think we can really bring a lot of different perspectives to student government.
I think that something that really is really foundational to our ticket specifically is the experience that Kaylin and I have in, for me, interacting with a lot of the student body and the different extracurriculars I've been involved in, and Kaylin especially leading the Common Exchange. Understanding how these student clubs work and operate is going to be extremely important to serving the student body, because a lot of what GCSA does is clubs. And so understanding how to lead in these organizations and lead well.
So our team, I think, most very obvious, we're very diverse, and also we promise to create more student space on campus, like turning Gillis to a student space.
And I think like we're connected to different groups on campus. I play tennis here, so I think I know athletics, and I think we can really partner with them. And I know the struggles of like just increasing fan attendance and school spirit, and I kind of can relate to that, along with residence life on campus. I've met a lot of people from there, so I think we're both, and Jabez is a student ambassador, so I think we both are just very well connected and can represent you well.
Thank you. One final question for all three tickets. What do you perceive as the current relationship between the student body and the administration, and how will you seek to build on it or improve it in your presidency?
I see a lot of frustration, especially in the midst of budget cuts right now. Students feel that they aren't having things communicated to them, or they don't know what's going on, or in past years there has been frustration with the administration for other reasons as well. And so frustration and then apathy. Students are involved with members of faculty, but the administration is just kind of there. And so one way that I think that we could really address this specific frustration and apathy is being willing to listen to students, but then also being very transparent in how we operate, and then also actively voicing their concerns to the administration. But I think one thing that could really help with that frustration and apathy is creating spaces for administration and students to come together and meet. I know we're holding an event called Pizza with the President in just a few short weeks, and I think that those kinds of opportunities where students can actively meet members of the administration, like various vice presidents on campus who they had no idea were there, will be a great opportunity to build relationships and create connections that students will begin to see how those members of the administration are really working for them.
I think, yeah, first and foremost, I think, yeah, it isn't perfect. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, but I think Josh and the current GCSA, they've done a good job of building trust with the administration. So I kind of see GCSA as like that bridge between the student bodies. So I believe that like if we do our jobs in engaging with you and engaging with just every single student on campus and then represent your concerns effectively to the administration, I think kind of that's how change happens. I think that's kind of how Gordon is set up as an institution, that GCSA has that power, more power than maybe a student on their own voicing their concerns. So I think really utilizing like relationships with us and us reaching out to you will kind of continue to build more trust.
Yeah, I think Erin and I would definitely agree with what Aaron and Jonathan are saying, in that first of all, reaching out to you guys, because we see ourselves in GCSA broadly as kind of the bridge between the student body and the administration. And so I think that on that side of the bridge, we've kind of talked about some of the initiatives that we're working on to gather student opinion. We're focused on developing committees to see what student engagement is like and testing the feelings of what the student body is like. But then on the other hand, Erin and I are also committed to working together with the administration to make Gordon a better place. We know that the administration is important to allow the funding and allow the success of a lot of the initiatives that occur. But then conversely, without the ingenuity and the innovation that students bring every single day in really manifesting in primarily club development, then there would be little reason to come to Gordon. So we're really focused on fostering that relationship between us and the student body, but as well as with Erin and I and the administration.
Thank you all. Let's give them a big round of applause. And let's thank yourselves as well for your wonderful questions. I appreciate it. All right, I have 4 quick announcements to make before you all have a chance to vote and then are dismissed. So first of all, this email, which we introduced you all to, the feedback@gordon.edu email, is our new email for you to provide your concerns, your thoughts on everything from the priorities process to the food and lanes. So hit up that email. I'll be checking it quite often. Marina will be checking it quite often, and we'd encourage you to utilize that well. Second, we have supplemental elections coming up for GCSA, which will be in the next few weeks to fill some of the remaining positions after this election. So if you're interested in running, we'd love to talk with you up at the front afterwards. There will be an elections announcements party to announce the result of this election at 9 p.m. tonight in Chester's. We'd love to see you there. And then finally, voting is open until 7 p.m. tonight on go.gordon.edu. So if you just join me in one more quick word of prayer, and then you'll have a chance to vote and you'll be dismissed. Lord, choosing between candidates is often a hard decision with no clear right answer. I pray that as we decide who we think could best lead the Student Association of the future and Gordon College into the future, you would help us to vote well. And Lord, no matter what the outcome of the election, I pray you would help this campus to come together and move forward well for your glory. In Jesus' name. So if you vote now at go.gordon.edu, those votes will be tallied. We look forward to hearing your thoughts at feedback. And thank you all for your time. You are dismissed.